We are going to start. I am Sciortino, and I am here again for the 48th episode of What's Happening in Myanmar. This time we changed the title about the future, what is ahead for Myanmar in occasion of the 4th year anniversary of the coup. We have so far taken a look every time at what has happened the last month. Today, we hope to also learn more about what are the prospective for the country as seen by Khin. We are again proud to have as our speaker today, Khin, a well-known activist and woman and peace and security activist, and she will be our speaker today as usual. We will have her speak first, and then we will have question and answer. So please, Khin.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks for having me again, and thanks to all of you for joining on this very very special, significant day for the people of Myanmar. I do have a very short video about there was a protest right in the center of Yangon city this morning by the youth activists from General Strike Committee. And I just received this short video I want to show you first. Let me share this, the video now. If you could just give me 1 second. Can you see now, Leah?
Yes, but you should enlarge.
I'm going to start.
If you can enlarge. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm going to start now. Is the sharing stop already?
Yes, it's fine. You can
Great.
start speaking now. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all of you for joining us today. So I just show you this very short video of these young people who are so very courageous and very committed that they just held this mob strike in Yangon this morning as the people of Myanmar, the People's Revolution, celebrated their 4th anniversary of the resistance against the military's illegal coup attempt. In fact, after 4 years, it's very clear now this military has failed. So today, as the title kind of guide us, I will also share with you of like what is ahead of us potentially, possibly some potential scenarios that we can only predict. Of course, everything can change, depending on how things happen on the ground, how the world is moving into which direction, and who's doing what. So with that, a lot of uncertainty, but there is one thing that I can tell you, one thing for sure, this certainty, and that is the resolute commitment of the people of Myanmar across generations, and particularly the young generations, that they are not going to back out. In fact, they are actually advancing. They have stepped up and they have advanced of their efforts on the ground. And this is something I'm going to share with you today as well. Let me just 1 second, let me, oops, sorry, where is my Zoom? Okay. So basically, those of you who follow the media, I encourage you to also, Leah, you don't see the screen sharing anymore from my end, do you?
No, I don't.
No, oh, okay, all right. So those of you who follow the media, I encourage you to also look for my op-ed just ran in Nikkei Asia this morning, where I also talk about the solutions and also proposal, particularly to the ASEAN. So today marks the 4 year. For the people, it is their revolution. For the Myanmar military, it's a terrible fall. Terrible 4th anniversary of their failed coup. What we have seen after 4 years, it's become very clear, is this homegrown, people-led political transformation is really moving ahead and advancing. You can really see the strength of the people, this revolution, without much of this international support. In fact, actually, you can see the international support actually going more to the military junta, knowingly how this military junta is not only the international criminal gang and illegal by all means, but also of their ongoing atrocity crimes against the people. You see China, you see Russia, and like some of these allies continue to be backing the Myanmar military politically, but also militarily and economically. And that's a real problematic for the people of Myanmar who are really suffering a lot at the people, the civilians are really suffering at the hands of the military, because the military continue to be deploying this collective punishment, as you can see. But also the revolution actually is also really advancing, and I want to share you about that today. If you look at the Myanmar revolution, I'm not so sure, because I share or I talk to many different audiences who are interested in Myanmar situation or the crisis in Myanmar. Sometimes I kind of forget who I talk to what, but I just want to maybe I'll just repeat it. Sorry if I share with you already here in this platform, but you see the Myanmar People's Revolution actually is composed of the people's political defiance, or you can call the peaceful protest and non-cooperation, civil disobedience on one hand. So that's one component. And then you also will see that there is armed resistance, yeah. But of course, there is also another component, very important component, is the civil society and campaigners who are advocating and campaigning across the globe to get the world, the United Nations and ASEAN to get on board to really support the people of Myanmar's efforts on the ground. So you will see that, like international relation or the international advocacy as well. Coming back to the first component, the people's defiance or the non-cooperation or civil disobedience, you will see in 2024, almost 3,000 peaceful protests took place across the country. Most of them were held in central Myanmar, in Sagai region. So the significance of central Myanmar holding these peaceful protests is significant, is because this is where the Burma majority, or the majority Burma, or the majority Burman of the country the population live. And this central area, where traditionally has been the Myanmar military's recruitment ground to expand their military operations or recruit their soldiers. And this whole area been against them for the last 4 years. So you will also notice that military has been unable to have their regular recruitment, like in their regular recruitment procedure. Nobody is joining them for the last 4 years. In fact, that ground, that's where the people are wholeheartedly joining this revolution and fighting against them, right? So that's one thing. And this peaceful demonstrations ongoing with non-cooperation and civil disobedience is something that you can see, like just what you just saw of those young people just held this mob protest in Yangon this morning. But then I think there is a very, very important part that we have to look at is also this military side of the armed resistance side of the revolution. The revolutionary groups, the armed revolutionary groups, they have they started in 2023 and all the way in 2024, they have actually gained or regained more and more territory, effective controls, where they establish or strengthen local administrations, people participatory governance, local governance, also with the service provisions for the local populace. And in the administrations, there are set up of the justice sectors, and also there are where these collaboration among the different areas, groups who are looking into their future, how they're going to rebuild or build new Myanmar as they are striving. So this is something I want to share with you. So the possible scenario in 2025, before I get into that, let's look at where this effective control at this point in the revolution, yeah. So as I have shared, like the effective control gain or regain by the political or the armed revolutionary forces that has actually grown or advanced, extended quite a lot. And now at this point, some estimate is saying that only 32% are under the junta's control over the whole country. But some are saying that that's even lower estimate, because even in the last few weeks, as much as there are more bombing coming from the sky by the military junta, there are more regaining or the gaining of the territorial control established by the revolution. So with that, there is a scenario that the revolutionary forces may take over Naypyidaw in 2025. So that is one scenario. Now, if you look at the map of Myanmar, you will see the revolutionary forces from the west, north, east, and the south, like a southeast and the south. And you'll see them actually like coming into the center, yeah, where also the revolutionary forces in center or central Myanmar are also advancing. So you see them coming closer and closer to where? It's towards the direction of Naypyidaw. But of course, if you ask me, are you sure? I'm not a part of that particular movement, so I cannot say. I cannot predict with a more certainty on that. But I think just with my 35 years at least of being an activist of more than 35 years, I've never seen like this before. I mean, I've never seen these different revolutionary forces at the same time with the coordination that we cannot see as ordinary people, but we can see from their movements on the ground that they are moving and moving in. And you see along with that, there are building blocks of this bottom-up federal democracy. It's being developed on all fronts. You see that in the ethnic regions, you also see that in the central majority Burman areas. And you see the civil society, the youth and women organizations are also doing their part very well. For example, drafting the state constitutions, they are part of the political process, drafting the constitutions, also a part of establishing or strengthening the local governance institutions, and developing the policies for transitional justice, gender equality, minority rights, women, peace and security framework, while many of them are in fact providing the essential services that include health, education, children's vaccine, counseling for the survivors of the military's violence. Many of these things are happening as we speak. Drafting a political roadmap and planning that transitional arrangement is really underway. And yet, of course, building, coming out of the 70-year conflict or the civil war, multifaceted civil war, right? To build a new country, of course, it is going to be a long road. It's not going to be, like within a day, or it's going to be easy and short, right? But what is more important is that people are so determined, and they have this aspiration and their belief in what they want to achieve and how that can be achieved. So that aspiration or the vision of federal democracy has been guided by the Federal Democracy Charter, which was deliberated and adopted in the very beginning of 2021 Spring Revolution by the elected members of the parliamentarians from 2020 election, civil disobedience movement, general strike committees, ethnic resistance organizations, or the EROs, and the civil society. Yeah. So this is the guiding, like a document to really lay the foundation towards the federal democracy. If revolution wins in 2025, or maybe moving into 2026, the thing is, people ask, what's going to happen? I've been asked by these questions by many wherever I go. Will there be power vacuum? Will there be a failed state? People think about this failed state looking into who is sitting in the capital Naypyidaw. What if they are removed? Will this country be a failed state? Well, let me tell you one thing for sure. That is not going to be a failed state, because the building blocks of federal democracy that has been already established and strengthened of these institutions on the ground, including like interim governments, interim executive branch, interim parliamentary, interim parliament, interim judiciary, such as you see in Karani, which is also similar, these kind of similar initiatives and efforts are also being made in other areas, in different liberated areas too. So what we are seeing is that if the military is removed from Naypyidaw, there will be no power vacuum. As far as I learn and I observe, the political leaders of the movement or the revolution, they are not, they don't, what do you call it? They don't lose sight of that very need, yeah? So that's why there is this kind of this people's dialogue, or the leaders, consultation are happening on these future, how are they going to get into the transition, yeah? So it is something that we need to look into that. And in that scenario of if revolution wins, what are we going to get? what are we going to get from that? It's definitely going to be a new political arrangement for all different ethnic communities in Myanmar to be able to live in a peaceful coexistence. That peaceful coexistence means equal power sharing. There will be no one entity like the Myanmar military who actually dominated the country's politics like before. There will be no status quo going back before 2021. But what is going to happen is in that new federal democratic political arrangement, there will be equal power sharing. And that is going to solve the 70 years long multifaceted civil war. So that is what's going to happen. I think it's really important that the world, the UN, the ASEAN really grab on that. Because to me, like I keep listening to who said what, right? And just my op-ed in Nikkei Asia this morning is responding to Malaysia, who is the chair of the ASEAN in 2025, as Malaysia foreign minister came out with a statement saying that the election is not a priority. Of course, that what he said is a first step in the right direction. We can say that, but I think there are many missing points that I would like for the Malaysian government or the other political stakeholders or the international policymakers to really grab on. Is that this Myanmar military doesn't have any legality to hold any election at all, first of all. And there is no constitution in Myanmar anymore. The elected people from 2020 election already dissolved this military drafted 2008 constitution, yeah? But now we have this process of drafting this federal and state constitutions for the new Myanmar. So that's what they should be looking into. What are the elements in there? What are the key, essence of this new Myanmar that everybody is trying to achieve, right? So I think that's something I'm encouraging the international policymakers, including Malaysia as the chair of the ASEAN, to look into and really try to understand what the people are trying to achieve. So I don't know how much I have taken time already. Leah, please remind me for if I'm going over time. I think it's important also to understand if the revolution wins. Not only that, this new Myanmar will actually have this new arrangement where the communities within will have a chance to live in human security, dignity, in this peaceful coexistence. But imagine of how that is going to impact the neighboring countries and beyond, in the region and beyond, yeah? Because I mean, you know now, I'm sure those of you who follow the media will see how this transnational crimes are being committed. There's this huge human trafficking being, like people from all over the world being trafficked and physically tortured, including even, just recent most prominent cases are those Chinese actor and models who were, basically trafficked, yeah? So I think like it's so important that the ASEAN really understand that neither the military's planned sham election nor the ceasefire, as Malaysia proposed, will bring about the doable peace or sustainable solution to this country. The doable peace and sustainable solution will only come out from this current people-led homegrown political transformation process. And I think that's something that the ASEAN should really take the step up. And under the Malaysia leadership, they should really look into this and align their objective of how they want to see the sustainability or the stability in the region really are in total alignment with the people of Myanmar, who more than Myanmar people would like to see the peace and stability, because it's all about their life, their livelihood, and the future of their young generations. So I think this is something that I would like just to share with you. That is let me just give you another scenario, right? I give you that. Yes,
Okay.
Let me just say this first. So one scenario I give you is if the revolution wins. Of course, the other scenario is what if the Myanmar military is able to hold their sham election with the support from China and the others. I think that is going to be a complete disaster for not only for the people of Myanmar, but I think for those who try to actually address the crisis, particularly the ASEAN. I'll just end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we hope will not lose. But okay, we have two questions. And then one is about the prediction of fragmentation. Now you have already talked a little bit about, but maybe you can elaborate more in terms of there are fears that after, if there is a win, indeed, if the victory of the revolution, then there will be fragmentation of the various ethnic area because every ethnic area care about their own, not so much a national feeling. That is one question. Another one related is also there are fears that some of these ethnic armies are not particularly democratic. So then is the question whether the new system, whatever will be, especially federalist, will be an association of authoritarian states or will be an association of democratic states. I mean, that is one follow-up question. There is another question which is different.
Can I go with this one first, Leah?
Yes,
I don't want to
exactly.
lose it.
I
Thank
leave
you.
you these two first because the other one is of a different nature. Okay, please.
Okay. So yeah, let me respond to this question. Thank you. This is a very important question. Of course, we are very diverse, yeah, and all these diverse ethnic communities never had a chance to really talk about or discuss about the nation building process before. So this is the first time ever they are having. But if you look at from their perspective and where they are, like I said, they never had a place where they feel comfortable and confident and trust to discuss about how they want to actually achieve this future together in this peaceful coexistence or the power sharing, equal power sharing, right? So many people talk about this. Oh, Myanmar is so complex and so fragmented. And the question, whenever I get the question, of course, I will always immediately would like to offer is what I want to offer is it is a 70-year-old conflict. So I don't think we should expect a simple, context because that's the very reason we have 70 years, right? But then we have to be able to see the very root cause of all of this is because of the Myanmar military. So if you see that all of these different groups, they all have the same common agenda or the vision is they all would like to end this military tyranny. But then the next step, everybody is so curious is how are they going to come together? How are they going to actually live together or run the country together, right? So this is where I am proposing to the UN and ASEAN, because that's where they can be very helpful. They can be so useful to support that space, to support that process of that nation building, because these different entities, it's not like they will just, build a brick wall between one, between one and the other. It's not like that. They lived in this country a long time. The communities are interactive, right? So nobody can deny that. People cannot deny that. But it's a matter of how this political arrangement can be actually agreed upon. And that is something where people need a space to talk about it. The revolution forces need a space to talk about it. I think that's where the ASEAN that I've been proposing is give them a space where they can really talk about how they want to actually come to that agreement. So I think it's not fair for us to just tell them, oh, you guys are so fragmented, because there is no opportunity or a chance for them to have a chance to talk about their difference of opinions. And there are also many common opinions or many common thinking around, you see. But it's just a matter of people not giving them the chance. So I would like to say, like one of my Chin colleagues always say that it is in our hand. Let us lead our process. That's what he said. Like, don't worry too much, because as a matter of fact, people on the ground are the one who are actually making all these efforts and sacrifices. And the coordination on the ground is much more than what some experts from outside world are perceiving. I mean, you cannot have this revolution, like advancing from 2023 to 2024 without coordination. So I would just echo what he said. Please do not worry that much and give us a chance. Thank you.
About authoritarism, I mean, whether the new federation will be based on democratic or authoritarian principles, in the sense that some ethnic
Yes.
army have not shown respect for human rights necessary.
Right. So this is something also we all will have to work together. It is very true. Some of the EROs are not in that, like, are not intact with the democratic principles or the protection of human rights, which is something as a civil society like us, we are advocating. We are advocating for them to comply with their code of conduct, strengthen their code of conduct, and also the compliance with the international humanitarian law. And we're calling on the United Nations also to help these actors so that they actually come to understand, but not only understand, there are so much things are needed on the ground for the civilian protection. I mean, civilian protection, like just only to understand the IHL without any practical support for them to be able to comply with. What kind of compliance are we looking for, right? So that's why I keep telling the international community also, don't only just complain. I mean, I always say, look at what you have supported or how much you have supported. So one thing I can say for sure, with my 35 plus years of the experience, the EROs or these ethnic organizations or resistance groups, they are open to speak to you all. They are open. There are things that they are so far short they fall so short of the democratic principles or the civilian protection. We know that. And that's not been something that nobody hide about it. We talked about it, we bring it to the United Nations, we expose it. In fact, if you see women organizations, some of us are joining as they welcome us, they just issue a statement about the sexual violence case. They have already issued a statement calling on the national unity government to take their proper action and justice and accountability, you see? So for us, as a civil society and human rights organizations, we can call on any of these groups, whether the Arakan Army or any others, or the NUG. But we cannot end this Myanmar military's decades-long impunity yet. And nobody is helping us. So if the world really want to see the other actors become democratic, more compliance with the human rights protection and IHL, as we want to see also, we are pushing for it. We would like them to join us. For example, I'll give you one example and I'll end there on this particular point. My organization, Progressive Voice, joined by many others Myanmar civil society organizations, we have already got to the point of the global network of the national human rights institutions remove the Myanmar National Human Rights Commission, which is under the control of the Myanmar military. They've been a smokescreen for the Myanmar military forever it was incepted. Yeah, we got them removed now. But what we're not stopping there. We have a new law to establish a new independent national institution that is impartial and effective. Right now, as we are in this revolution. And we have this new law that we have already proposed to the NUG and the other key stakeholders, and we will keep pushing. Why? It's because we want to have this independent commission so that the human rights violations happen on the ground regardless of who commits. We will have to ensure we will have to seek for justice for the survivors and victims. We have to stand for that. So our revolution has to be with the ideological transformation, but also with the hope, like the revolutionary actors being held accountable to what they do on the ground as well. So.
Thank you very much for the very clear answer on this. Now we have different kind of question. So of course, one question is about the US, which is not at the moment an example of democratic country, unfortunately. But so what can be done to compensate for the out of US funds? Now we know that they have affected Myanmar in the sense of the fellowship, which was supporting people to go abroad. Now suddenly stop because this is my own elaboration, because the title is diversity and inclusion, so stop. Then we know that help for refugee camps has been stopped now, in principle 90 days, but then is it going to be 90 days? We don't know. It's very unpredictable. So what can be done? Any strategy? That is one question. Wait, because we have more. So that is about what is happening in the United States with the current president and what is going to be the impact. Now, the second is about the NUG. The NUG has mentioned that they have intention to reform. Will this happen? And which minister should be dismissed? In your view, if you have a, this is probably a little bit sensitive question, but that is the question. So I stop here. There is one more question, but for now, we stop here. Yeah. These two are already quite complex. Yes.
So with regards to the US, yeah, it's such a madness, isn't it? Not only for our Burma-Myanmar situation, no? It's really sad of where things are in this country, the US. But one thing that, I mean, right now, everybody is still talking and discussing and all of that. But my proposal will be, of course, for the others to fill in immediately, right? Canada, Australia, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Europe, Scandinavia. Because I think like one thing about the aid, especially the humanitarian aid to save people's lives on the ground, at least before this madness came, the US side of the agencies, aid agencies, they look into possibilities of, they look into as much as they could, the different possibilities to support the humanitarian aid, to support this locally led bottom-up federal initiatives, like strengthening the local governance and things like that, right? Strengthening the judicial system in the revolution areas. So that a lot of these things, these great things are already happening. And US has been one of the very few who have been starting to get into supporting these people, bottom-up, people-led new Myanmar building or this federal democracy building. At the same time, also for the internally displaced people who had to flee from these airstrikes and artillery shelling by the military, right? But now, with this crazy announcement from Washington, D.C., what amazed me is that the agencies on the ground just stop immediately, like asking the patients in the clinic in the refugee camps who have nowhere to go just to be discharged. I think a little bit too much, to be very honest. I'm not going to name any agencies here, but I think they could take a little bit of a courageous step. Come on, you know, seriously. I mean, their fundings are like 5 years kind of fundings. Yeah, not like the local CSOs who are getting only 6 months small budget, you know, like all, if they are so lucky, 1 year project, right? Grant. But these agencies with, you know, like hundreds of staffs who have also with a very high pay, yeah, of course we recognize their contribution, but think about it. I mean, is it their work is for these vulnerable populations, right? Is it all they can do? I am a little bit surprised. I am actually very surprised, to be honest, of their immediate, you know, stopping of the services on the ground because of one statement from Washington, D.C., from that madness, you know, office. So I am actually not going to, I don't want to get so much into this, but I will actually appeal the other donors like the EU to really support their local people's initiatives through the cross-border, through the border channels, because that's where the most needed aid to save people's lives have been reaching to those who need to be saved. And I think that is something the other donors could a bit kind of like, you know, take a share and try to fill in the gap, at least for now, than leaving those population at the highest risk with all of just nothing, right? I mean, like, I will encourage those US agencies or those who are funded by the US, look into out of the box. I mean, come on, you know, like all of their long years of their experience and their capacities and their expertise, is that all that they can do for the vulnerable population from Myanmar or elsewhere? I will challenge them. They could do better than what they did now. Thank you. Energy reform.
Energy reform, yeah, short, because we have.
So yes, energy reform. This is something I have been advocating for. I think it's just a natural, you know, because as an interim revolutionary government, you know, which had to be set up under the very challenging circumstances, coming up with the best that they could was good. It's effective, you know, it is needed to ensure that the legitimacy of the people are protected. But after 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, it's just a natural, you know, course that I see as a natural logical step for the energy to reform. So I heard, of course, all of you heard, there was an announcement by the acting president also talk about it. How are they going to do it? I don't think I'm in that position to say anything like that, right? But my general recommendation will be just have a comprehensive review of the ministries and also the minister positions, and have a performance assessment and see like which ministry is still needed or probably not needed. Or there could be some other ministries needed after 4 years of the revolution. And it has to be matched with what is needed and what's been developed on the ground with this bottom-up federal democracy building. So I think that is something that I think the NUG should do, but I'll just stop there.
A diplomatic answer, yeah, on the energy. We are not saying which minister are inefficient, or maybe we need a department of efficiency like in the United States. I am joking here, of course. Now then, about ASEAN, a question is from the floor. Given ASEAN historical challenge in effectively addressing the Myanmar crisis, to what extent do you believe the appointment Malaysia, you talked already about Malaysia, but you think there will be a more meaningful progress, or will be the same ASEAN diplomatic inertia? I confess, when I post your writing, I say, do we still need to give attention to ASEAN? But I admire your trust into the capacity of ASEAN to do something. But so do you think there will be some change with Malaysia, or will be more of the same? And then the last question for today about the scam centers. So it seems that there is a percentage that goes because they are trafficked. But more and more, there are also some information that say people are attracted by the possibility of earning what is a relatively large amount of money compared to their country of origin. So the illusion that they can make money is what attracts them more than being forced, which in a sense is still trafficking because it's an illusion that is created. But yeah, so that is the question. Maybe your comments about whether they are trafficked or they are going on their own initiative, even if for food motives.
I'm not so sure, to be honest. I think it's a bit difficult to say, but I mean, like, just, you know, like for the those who are in need of search for job, or, you know, like for their better life or anything like that. I mean, it's really like yeah, I think that's the vulnerability of us as human beings, isn't it? But then I think the issue with this, as I said, this is how do we actually address that, right? I mean, like NUG and also the other EROs, they have already made it public that they will collaborate, they will work together with the neighboring countries to address this issue, no? I think that's something practical that neighboring countries, particularly Thailand, should actually take it, especially because it is like, you know, Thailand sharing the longest border and all. I think that's where for the rule of law for Thailand as well. And I think just to combat the transnational crimes, it really needs these actors to be able to like come together, right? And Myanmar side of these legitimate stakeholders of the different communities of Myanmar have already expressed their will and commitment. I think the other side need to start to reach out, you know, like to these local actors to combat that. I think that's why I said like Myanmar revolution winning is not only in the best interest of the Myanmar people, but also in the best interest of the ASEAN and neighboring countries and beyond. So that's why I think it's something they should really do it. I mean, like, you know, like this, listening to what some of the political leaders saying, like, you know, I mean, particularly like Thailand saying that, you know, like this is sort of like, you know, what they are worried more is about the reduction of the tourism from China, right? I think they have to go beyond, no? I mean, it's a very short-sighted thinking, like about only thinking of the tourism. They have to go beyond about the well-being of their own country, the rule of law in their own country, and it just goes beyond like how many number of tourists are going to be decreased or increased because of this news, right? So I think this, like not having a far-sighted vision thinking by the leaders of the countries is quite concerning to me. I would just end there. I think I just want to say that the Myanmar side of the actors already, you know, opened their arms for the collaboration to combat this transnational crimes. The neighboring countries should really do it. I want to come back to the perhaps the last question, on which I forgot now, Leah. That's my problem with that. My mind. What was it again? Sorry.
About ASEAN, whether
ASEAN.
we see any change.
Yes.
I mean, you have
Yes.
talked already.
Yeah.
Malaysia,
Sure.
but still elaborate a little bit more whether
sure. Yeah.
Change or
my dear friends, let me tell you this. Myanmar people are so tired with ASEAN ineffectiveness. We're so tired with their failure for 4 years on us. And yet, what can we say? Because the world still want to continue to hide behind the ASEAN. You go to the UN, you go to the capitals, you know, you go to the Brussels, you go to Washington, New York, you keep hearing everybody, or Geneva, you keep hearing all of these international diplomats saying like, oh, the ASEAN. Well, on one side, we understand, right? ASEAN, we are a member of the ASEAN. That's the very reason Myanmar people don't even want to be a member of the ASEAN for their country to be. Because for us, we see that, being a member of ASEAN, it allows more delay for the people to be able to achieve the peace and sustainability, while it allows for the junta with the delay tactic to continue with their terror campaign against the people. Because ASEAN 5-point consensus, the very first point that ASEAN should really, really focus is to stop the violence of this Myanmar military junta. And they cannot even do it. But now, that's why I wrote what I wrote, is with Malaysia, I want to add a little bit more hope compared to last year with Laos, right? Because knowing Laos, knowing China behind and all of that, I didn't have any hope with Laos at all. But then with Malaysia, because Malaysia previous government made a very clear statement and policy statement and position on Myanmar, and now the current one, in fact, the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, in fact, like when he was in prison for many times, I was a part of the campaign for his freedom, for example. So making that kind of linkages, I was hoping that like someone like him being the Prime Minister of Malaysia, being the chair, he will actually take the right path. Yeah. So right now, as I said, the Malaysia telling Myanmar that election is not a priority. It's a step in the right direction. Yeah. But Malaysia can do more. So there are proposals I made. There are at least 2 proposals, very critical, that they should do. One, the thing is, they want Myanmar revolution side to engage with this Myanmar military in this inclusive dialogue kind of thing. Yeah. But like I said, ceasefire or this quote-unquote inclusive dialogue is not going to bring anything, not going to bring the real solution for Myanmar. And we have lived through these moments and experiences of decades of failures of the ceasefire, blah, blah, blah. Come on, right? The power sharing, of the 10 years between Aung San Suu Kyi and the military, right? We know how these quick fix solution to patch up with Myanmar military doesn't bring anything for Myanmar people. So the proposal is, as Malaysia being the chair, they have the right to make some decision. For example, I would like to see the Malaysian government invite the legitimate stakeholders of Myanmar, NUG, EROs, NUCC, have a dialogue without the Myanmar military, I will make it again and again very clear on this. So that is one thing that they could do. Talk about this future that the bottom-up efforts are already building by themselves. They should hear directly from these stakeholders and understand what is really happening on the ground in Myanmar, right? So I think that is the very first step. And then, I really appreciate what the Malaysia representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Human Rights Commission, Edmund Bun, who's been a very at the forefront of the human rights advancement in ASEAN, and very also understanding very much of the Myanmar situation and very vocal already. And this is something that Malaysia government actually can also work with the human rights experts in their own country to address the long-standing of this Myanmar military's international human rights crimes, and see how that, this is a part of the Myanmar overall solution. So there are proposals that we actually, as a civil society, more than 300 organizations, we have already put out our position, and you can actually download it in my Nikkei Asia op-ed today as well. But I made a new proposal to Malaysia, because United Nations General Assembly in the last session before end of 2024, they made a decision that they will hold this stakeholder international conference to find a sustainable solution for the Rohingya people. See, ASEAN has neglected Rohingya crisis for a long time, even though Malaysia having 100,000 Rohingya refugees, and there are other refugees from Khin and Rakhine and Burma, and but even alone on the Rohingya, 100,000 Rohingya refugees are in Malaysia. They are housing. So now the UN is going to hold this international meeting, Malaysia should actually take the lead in that and show that solution for the Rohingya is a part of the overall solution for Myanmar. And that's how Malaysia can show their leadership. I don't think it should be that difficult at all. And I think that's something very practical. It's just that not only Malaysia, but the other countries should take up a little bit of the political courage and join Malaysia's hands if Malaysia is willing to take this lead. I'll stop here. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you very much. And I think this particular episode about the future of Myanmar has shown as courage needs to be at the core of everything. In the beginning, we have seen the video of the very courageous youths that, in spite of everything, still demonstrate within Myanmar. But also, I see Khin ask for the courage of agency, not to just stop the AIDS. I mean, there needs to be some solution. We know the decree from President Trump is from immediate, but then they may have saving, or they may have other project that can be, or they need to have some risk-taking approach rather than always risk-averse. I have been a donor for some time of my life, so I know donors tend to be very risk-averse. But maybe now is the time to find solutions that are not necessarily risk-averse, because maybe there is still space for interpretation and can be found others. So way not to stop so abruptly with very dramatic consequences. And also the courage of the country of Asia to finally seek for durable and sustainable solution. So I would say this episode is particularly in the sign of the need for having courage as we continue in this battle for a new Myanmar. I want to thank our media partner, Mizima, and Irrawaddy, that allow us to spread what we are saying today well beyond the few people that follow us on Zoom. We have a very large reach thanks to these two media partners. We know that they are also affected, particularly Mizima has been coming out in the news as their activity satellites, etc., have been again drastically affected by the stop of US funding. So they and other media on the border are also seriously affected. So we are again very thankful that you continue to support us with your large reach. I want to do some promotion. This is a new book that has just come out, Living the Coup, which actually is really produced by SEAJunction because was an initiative to collect stories of people who live in Myanmar or had to move to Thailand, and we combine it with artwork and photography from the exhibition and that we had. I don't know if you can see, but it's become a quite creative and important documentation of the 3 years, because the 4th year was for the production of the book, of the 3 years of the coup, and tomorrow will be launched. Tomorrow we have an opening event for an exhibition which is entitled Myanmar Odyssey. Odyssey in terms of the 4 years of the journey after the coup, but also in terms of the many people who were displaced by the conflict and have to live abroad. And the artwork from Shui, they reflect this reality, the courage of the young people, of women in the fight against the military, as well as the courage of the people that have to live abroad, and particularly in Thailand. And we have Kun Panipa, of former parliamentarian of the Move Forward Party. She will also be giving her impression of what can be done more by Thailand to welcome the people that have to run away from Myanmar. So I invite you tomorrow at SEAJunction. For those who are in Bangkok at 5 o'clock, can also be watched online, again, broadcast also Mizima and Irawadi, thanks to their collaboration. So thank you again to Khin Ohmar. I know you have some difficult personal situation at the moment of the health of your husband, so I am even more grateful that you are with us today on this important anniversary in the name of courage. We hope all to have more courage for the future. Thank you very much, and thank you to the people that follow us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks, Leah. Bye-bye.
And read the article of Khin Ohmar that we share in our